Artificial intelligence is creating a new global linguistic hierarchy. That's the top-line findings from some research done by University of Cambridge. Now, I found this interesting for a couple of reasons. One, that the hierarchy is changing, that it's new, and secondly, the pace at which it's changing. We hear all the time that artificial intelligence, large language models work in 300 languages, so everybody can get information. The data from this research does not support that theory. Instead, it finds that the gap between languages with lots of resource, hyper-resource languages, and the rest of the world's languages is increasing. And that divide, that digital divide, is actually deepening global inequities in terms of healthcare, education, and even being able to register a small business. And they find that this disparity isn't based on the number of speakers, but rather it is systemic. One of the metrics they look at is the number of models built in a language. Models are things like chatbots. And so they take, for example, Breton. Breton is a language spoken by about 200,000 people in France. Annually, there are about 50 models created in Breton. Compare that to a language like Nigerian Pidgin, which has 85 million speakers, and only 10 models were built annually. And this really points to the fact that building artificial intelligence isn't based on human need, but rather on privilege. So how did this happen? Well, one of the things the authors say is that the early breakthroughs in artificial intelligence happened in English and high-resource languages, and that gave them a massive head start. There was an assumption that as the technology matured, that access would open to other languages. But that's not what happened. What they found is that hyper-resource languages, particularly English, got more investment, got more infrastructure, and therefore got even better. They kept getting better and better, creating this sort of infinite feedback loop, entrenching the dominance of hyper-resource languages. And this sort of, they looked at things like English, like the English language, that had over 50,000 models created in a year. That's over 1,000 models a week, which completely dwarfed any other language, even Mandarin. That, to the authors, that completely debunked the idea of a general purpose technology, a GPT, because to be a general purpose technology, the benefits have to be accessible to all communities. So what is the solution here? The authors create an index called Equate, which is an AI readiness index for languages. We have an index as well at Clear Global. These kinds of tools can be used to point to languages that can be developed, where artificial intelligence can be developed, and they're based on things like socioeconomic factors, the amount of data, the amount of infrastructure, and for ours also the vulnerability to disasters, to impacts of climate change. And we hope that by working with governments, other stakeholders, and the communities that speak the languages, that artificial intelligence can be a bridge to getting information instead of a barrier. And that's what's interesting.